Hey guys, good afternoon. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend so far. I spoke in my last video in regards to climate change, and I referred to Florida. Um, so I believe it's Farmers Insurance just pulled out of Florida for the home owners insurance. It's four different reasons, but let's talk about climate change for a second. Steady increase in insurance payouts during the change of climate for decades, stronger and more frequent storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, and heat waves. Combined with more people living in Florida means a higher probability of insurance companies having to make huge payouts, particularly during hurricane season. To me, I've heard people talk about how it's got to do with the state not doing anything. People they feel, maybe it's just hyperbole, they feel as though nothing's being done about climate change, that the government's taking it seriously. To me, it's kind of funny. We're living in a test case. Florida's really a test case of when you just don't do anything about, specific issues that we know are real. What's going to happen next? And I think that's what this is. We're watching the waters out there over 100 degrees. 101 Fahrenheit in the ocean off Florida. They're saying was it a world record. It's amazing to me, and it's shocking at the same time that folks can't realize what this means and what this is. That this is another one of those mile markers collapse that we warned about years ago. I was warned about. I wasn't warned people leaving, insurers leaving, but I was warned that flood insurance would get a lot more expensive. People would not be able to afford it, and then the bank gets probably back and they turn it. I was told about that. I was told about how the water would become brackish in certain areas, which means salty, and that would interfere with the saltwater plants. It would interfere with like pipes. It would interfere with all kind of things because it'd be so salty. I didn't know that. It is terrifying to, look at these things and realize the people that I was listening to, that it's actually worse. I listened to Young Turks talk about this, and they referred to a movie. Movie was called The Day After Tomorrow, and it's talking about a ice age or whatever. And it hit me, and it made me real angry to realize that this is worse. This is way worse. This is a way worse situation. See, those movies and those shows were really, wake up call, warning to a future that could come. Whether it be Idiocracy, where everybody's dumb, Terry Crews is the president, he's a wrestler. Whether it be, whatever. These were still the best people for the job. Geostorm wasn't. That was a little different. That's more realistic. But most of them were the good people dealing with serious situations they didn't see coming. We're watching a slouch towards a blue ocean event. It's coming way sooner than I thought. We're watching, like we just saw a couple years ago, wildfires in Siberia, wildfires in England and Europe. Like, you don't have to be a Scientologist to see what's coming. These areas that are not known for this kind of heat. I just thought climate change would be about, scarcity and areas not being able to, grow crops that they've been growing for hundreds of years. I never thought about actual emergencies where the ocean off Florida is over 100 degrees. That never came to my mind. And I think that unfortunately, our current experience, what we're looking at, is actually worse. To see a president be confused, talking about Trump, to be confused and not know the difference between climate and weather. To see Republicans joke about it'll be better for Wisconsin because less people will die. I really do believe this, and I think that Republicans have written off coastal regions. Young Turks went in talking about how, the military, what they've done with climate change and how they look at climate change, and everything done about climate change, some kind of military things wrapped in, and that's true. Yeah, that's a true statement. I talk all the time about how if you want to know what's going on with climate change, look at what the rich are doing, look what the military is doing. Start there. Start with the money. Follow the money. Don't believe me. And I've referred in the last video about Trump's pick for Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley. His first thing, I think, was that he had a big research project done talking about climate change. That's Trump's guy. So going back to what I said a minute ago in regards to them being willing to let coastal regions collapse. Trump was trying to buy Greenland, and nobody got it. That went over America's head collectively. They're expecting climate change to go. They're going to let it run wild. They're going to buy up these areas that are largely white, largely cold for most of the year, so that they can make them into resorts and shit to make money, while the rest of us are suffering in a hellhole. Like this is what's happening. Nobody caught that. They don't care. Let's go into this a little bit further. This waters of Florida reach over 100 degrees, near hot tub level, threatening the well-being of millions of marine animals that live in the ocean surrounding the state. The record-breaking heat wave corresponding to anomalous spike in ocean temperatures is affecting animals, affecting people as well. A part of me, I know this is wicked and it's wrong, and I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't feel this way. A part of me feel like we're in an era where Republicans are getting what they sowed. Whether it be, that town in Ohio got hit by that storm, that train wrecked, and everything got polluted, and we saw how they screwed it up. Whether it be the situation in Florida with the water, and the insurers pulling out. So that means what? That means there'll be less competition, and it's gonna be more expensive as far as housing, homeowner insurance. And part of me, I feel like a part of me is still an accelerationist, which is I don't believe people will do right. I don't believe a man can be trusted to do right. I think people have to be hurt sometimes to realize the seriousness of the situation. And a part of me feels like that's what this is. We know that Trump blocked a bill that was going to make it where they had different kind of brakes on the trains that might have averted that disaster. He did that. Obama had looked into averting the next, because they had a disaster in Canada, I believe, an oil train ran back to town, killed a bunch of people. That could have been averted. With this situation here, you're choosing to run your politics on wokeism, Anita Bryant 2.0. You're choosing to run down gays and run down black history, and you're making them your enemy. You're making black people your enemy. This is what you're choosing to do. And now something's hitting you that you're not even aware of. You're not even ready for. I'm not even sure a lot of people realize really what this means. It means we're much further along than I thought we were. As far as these mile markers. I'm not a climatologist. I've never got a degree in it. But I do know that that's a part of it. I really believe they're willing to sacrifice these areas that are next to the coast. I've been reading about, looking at the HIV crisis back in the day. I've been thinking to myself that if that happened again, probably handled worse, much worse, because Republicans have already divided the country. That's what they did with COVID, and COVID was actually killing people right then. People were dying. Look what they did then. You talk about a disease like HIV, they can hide in the body. What do they do? Waste 2 months. Kung flu. Liberate states. Look at what Trump did. Go back, look at what Trump did. The fighting over the ventilators, giving them to Florida, not giving them to New York. This is another example of what I mean. Republican Party is not a political party. They are a terrorist organization. And it's clear to me, every step we go in this process of collapse, that they don't care about the least of us, and they don't care. Communities just maybe aren't voting for them. That it shocked me with Trump, his wake up call, that when Trump wanted to let people come in to the Capitol with guns and said, "Take the magnetometers down, they're not going to hurt me." It really made me aware of the fact that they have their voting base, and there is no interest in maybe correcting the base a little. Like you correct your children. Like you love them, but you correct them when they do wrong. Hey, you don't go out here and cuss people. You don't go out here and leave trash. You don't go out here and disrespect your teacher, right? You correct them. Republican Party is not doing that. They're not interested in that. And so if all you do is play to a hyper-partisan base, and if all you do is wade deeper and deeper into it till an avowed Nazi is eating dinner with Trump, until Fox News is basically saying the Holocaust is good for Jews, until a state governor comes out and says that slavery was good for blacks. If this is the path you're taking as a political party, then it's not a far leap that there would be a willingness to let our people die. I never thought about it like this. When people talk about, Roland Martin talks about 2036 or 2032 or whatever, where there'll be more, white people will be more of a minority. I never thought about the significance of it could be that, okay, we're willing to sacrifice areas where we don't have votes. I never thought about that. I never thought about that. I thought it would be like maybe a shift in voting patterns. As I said, a part of me feels like we're now watching the rubber meet the road. And in the things I was told about are happening. But if this is what they're doing, just focusing everything on gays and transgender and creating registries on transgender people from the DMV and kidnapping illegal people who are in the country for amnesty, kidnapping and sending them, if that's what you're doing, if that's your political party's message, then maybe there is no well too deep. Maybe there is no cave too dark. Maybe there is no limits to how far you're willing to go. I mean, the senator talking about Wisconsin will be better for climate change. Do you think Wisconsin is going to be, are you going to make it a fortress? Mark Taylor Greene saying there'll be more food. Yes, and a longer hurricane season, and stronger hurricanes, and much more unstable hurricanes, because the water will be a lot warmer. And areas will become uninhabitable. How you can't understand something that simple. And I know you understand it because see, for many years, Republicans didn't care. And they still don't. They didn't care to look at it because they don't care about what doesn't affect them and their voters. So you're now saying, all right, this stuff exists, so let's plant some trees and shit. Let's all they're doing, all Republicans are doing, is now they're giving you the ideas that the left put out 30 years ago. You have to understand that Republican Party, like, they're literally backwards. They're just giving you stuff that people said before I was even born about, hey, maybe we should paint the roofs white to reflect more sunlight. I mean, this isn't new. There's nothing new here. There is no new ideas. There is no new impetus here to deal with an ongoing crisis. This is more denial. This is more kicking the can down the road and acknowledging facts that we've already accepted 20 years ago. I say it often. It seems as though the Republican Party is at war with our ancestors. They're not at war with us. They're at war. When Mark Taylor Greene mentioned Joe Biden and spoke about how he's acting like Roosevelt, and that'd be the greatest honor. Roosevelt was elected 3 times, folks. Wasn't no fluke. He didn't stumble into the White House 3 times. Elected 3 times. I would be honored to have a John Wallace walking around here. I would be honored to have a man out here talking about taking a year off, talking to civil rights leaders, talking to men, talking to unions out here, taking a year. What can I do to help? I would be honored. A man, white man in 1941, 42, talking about desegregation, talking about the women that had the factory jobs, keeping the jobs once the war ended. Talk about the two V's. Victory at home against fascism, victory abroad against fascism. I would be immensely proud to have someone like that around here working for me. They're not fighting issues. They're fighting tradition. They're fighting a legacy. And a lot of the New Deal was wrecked by Supreme Court. A lot of that stuff was erased. A lot of that stuff didn't last. But that isn't the point. They're at war with that because he was successful. The man got elected 3 times. 3 times. I just, to me, once again, and that's scary too. When Republicans acknowledge basic facts, that means much worse than we know. Because what it means is, it means that the issue is so accepted, and it is so much worse that they've got to at least play face value. This disaster, which is of indefinite duration, it's not going away. And it's not just going to be contained to one region of the world or another. This will start resource wars. That's the next thing. There will be wars over water. Once again, the homeowners insurance, I didn't see that happening this soon. I didn't see it happening this soon. That's one of the first ones. There will be wars over resources. There will be more immigration. We'll have to leave areas. I think this is also, it represents the demise of the Republican Party. Because if people can see things like this, where the water's over 100 degrees in the bay, and they'll say you can't get in the water, and they're telling you, it said the last year that all rainwater is polluted, don't drink the rainwater. If folks can see this, and they're denying it as we can see it in our lives, I think that hurts them. It hurts the legitimacy long term, because you no longer are a party of solutions. You are a party, it's a death cult. Because you're willing to die, you're willing to kill people to carry forward an idea. I just want a better life for all, and a better world as possible, and a government that makes sense. You know, a society that makes sense, not a society where you're talking about kung flu, and you tell somebody that you downplay the pandemic for an election, and you set up a panel to research a pandemic, and you do nothing with them for 2 months. You don't kind of. I believe a much better world is possible. That conversation, those tapes of Trump saying he downplayed COVID for the election, that alone, criminals to the side, rendered him, in my mind, not a legitimate political leader anywhere. We're not talking about politics anymore. We're talking about doing things for the betterment of your country. We're talking about general welfare. We're talking about being accountable for the whole country. Red and blue, black and white, all that. And if you're not willing to be accountable, and to carry yourself and to carry your ministry in such a manner that people would feel comfort, people would feel legitimate, people would feel a certain accountability in your administration, you have no business up there. So we had the protests. People don't understand it's all connected. The protests and all that come from the fact that you have a government that wasn't doing what it's supposed to do. And everybody felt that way. I think this also, for me, brings home the real inherent danger of a Trump presidency. A second one, in that you're watching the water almost boiling. It's just, this is red alert. This is the boots in the street. This is it. This is the fallout alarm going off. This is it. I don't get it.